Hello and welcome to the Switch for Good podcast. I'm Alexandra Paul, and I'm here with my wonderful co-host, Dotsie Bausch. Hi, Dotsie.
Good morning. Here we are again. This is going to be a really fun show because this is it's like vegan fashion hour on the Switch for Good podcast right now. We're going to do something a little different. We have three, because we have three guests. Our second two are sisters. They are vegan fashionista sisters. But this entire hour is going to be about sustainable, humane fashion that is everything like the real thing, but so much better.
Yeah.
And of course, kinder. So at first, we're going to have a guest that is specifically in making these materials, right? Out of cactus. Yes. Mind-blowing. And then after this wonderful guest, we're going to have two sisters on who are actually making incredible clothes out of materials like this. So ready to have your mind blown, folks. It's going to be a fun hour.
So our first guest today is putting animal leather out of style once and for all. His name is Adrian Velarde, and he is the co-founder of the company Adriano de Marti, which is a company that's in Mexico, and it makes this, like you said, incredible leather from cactus. And the material is called Decerto, which is apt, right? Because cactus is a desert plant. And it's really going to supplant, we hope, leather all around the world. I read an article about Adrian and his partner Marti, and I was so blown away. We just decided we had to find out more about this incredible material because we've heard about polyurethane and other ways that people, and for me in the 80s when I was trying to get shoes that were not leather, I was wearing basically plastic. Well, Adrian has a different, more sustainable solution. So welcome, Adrian Velarde, to Switch for Good.
Thank you so much for inviting me, Alexandra, Daisy. It's a pleasure to be here with you today.
Well, we wanted to start with your origin story. So tell us what inspired you to start your company that makes this leather-type fabric that's made from cactus that you call Decerto.
Right. The inspiration came because I used to work in the automotive and furniture industry while my business partner worked in fashion. And so we both found a common problem in these industries, which was the accumulation of waste, the use of toxic chemicals, and the harm to biodiversity. At that time, about 5 to 6 years ago, the alternatives to animal and fox leather materials were very scarce, and they hardly complied with the quality standards that the industry were used to. So knowing which standards we had to comply with, we decided to leave our jobs and focus on an intensive R&D for 2 years around plant-based fibers.
So how did you first stumble upon, or maybe probably in your deep research on what kind of plants you could use that would replace leather? I loved learning about the cactus leather on your website and the fact that when you harvest, you don't actually damage the plant at all. So the plants last up to 8 years. And also it was interesting to find out how little amount, it's a desert plant, but how little amount of water it takes, right? Which is what makes it so eco-friendly and sustainable. But I have some boots that are banana leather. So there's all sorts of amazing fabrics being made out of plants. Why did you land on cactus? How did you realize that this was really going to be the one that was soft and supple and amazing like animal leather?
Well, first of all, we thought of cactus because we focus on the land use change of agricultural sector. We had to evaluate every single step of the production of the material and make sure that it was going to contribute to sustainability, not only in environmental protection, but also in social aspects. So it means that, as you mentioned, you don't have to cut and harvest the same crops annually like it could be corn. In this case, the plant will last for about 8 years. And we recover fields that were previously open to agriculture. So we recover those plants. We plant native and typical cactus of the region. So far from affecting the biodiversity, we are foresting those lands which were previously abused by agriculture, and we don't put any toxic chemicals like it could be herbicides, pesticides, fertilizers. So it grows naturally because it is typical from that region. We enrich the soil, the microflora and the microfauna, where wild fauna like hogs, they find a favorable environment. And so we also decided cactus was the best option because it is hydroscopic. It means that it absorbs the water it needs from humidity in the environment during the morning dew, and it is a crassulation acid metabolism plant. It means that its metabolism is very efficient at absorbing and processing water and nutrients it needs to create biomass. So most plants like fruit trees and other crops like corn, they need about, they are C3 class. It means that they work with chlorophyll during daytime, and they need about an average of 1,000 liters of water to create 1 kilogram of matter. In this case, cactus only needs 200 liters of water, but we don't have to apply any irrigation to it. It is absorbed by itself from the water that is already there in the environment, and it makes it just a game changer because right from the get-go, you are reducing chemical use, energy use, you are reducing water consumption, and the growing rate of this cactus is very fast. Every 6 to 8 months, we can harvest the same plant, and we don't damage it, as you mentioned. The plant is going to last there, it's going to stay there, and that also contributes to a lower land use change in the agricultural process.
I heard your partner Marty say that it was like just giving a plant a haircut and the plant grows back.
I love that, the metabolism of a plant.
Right. So you have C4 plants, which absorb, which is what the cactus is, and then the C3, which are less, they absorb water more efficiently, and then the C3 don't. And so that's one of the reasons why you picked cacti instead of, for example, a pineapple.
Yeah. Or in
bananas.
And almonds, right, in the kind of plant milk world, right, are going to take a bit more. But we know that it takes 1,000 gallons of embedded water to produce 1 gallon of cow's milk. So we're definitely further along the track with any plant milk, but some are going to be more sustainable than others and use less water. Yeah,
exactly. Adrian, you mentioned that you worked in the automotive industry and your partner worked in the fashion industry, and you saw that it was not sustainable. Could you tell us a little bit about why leather's not sustainable and what was going on?
Leather is tanned with chrome and a lot of heavy metals and noxious substances, which eventually most of these tanneries don't have the equipments to process water and clean it and reuse it in other processes. Most of the time, this is just discarded, and it eventually affects not only the environment but also human health. And so PVC, which is a material not at all environmentally friendly, it doesn't degrade. It takes thousands of years, and normally it also contains a lot of toxic chemicals. And so this was one of our major concerns because at that time we knew that there were alternatives out there which could reduce the environmental impact. But the problem with these innovations at the time was that they didn't have the production capacity to be incorporated into these major production lines, and the cost was very high. So we had to think of a way of developing a new material, a new alternative, plant-based, which could give all these benefits, but at the same time that was scalable, and that by being scalable, we wouldn't affect the environment. So we know that in that region, in Zacatecas, is central northern part of Mexico, is where our farm is located at. That's where we plant and harvest this cactus, but we don't affect the wild flora of the region. So it is a controlled environment, organically certified by USDA Organic. We have the BCS certifications from Germany as well. And we know that this specific plant, it's the highest concentration in the world of this plant is in that region. The Mexican uses it for dietary purposes, but sometimes the farmers don't find an incentive to plant it and sell it because the price is too volatile, and sometimes it's not just worth it. It's too much work for few pennies, so they just don't bother working with it. And with this new process, what we are doing is that we are adding value and making this plant attractive enough for farmers to reactivate the planting of this cactus. It is also very good for them because it doesn't matter if the farm don't have access to water, or if they don't have the resources to invest in expensive fertilizers, which normally will be needed to plant other kind of crops. And in this case, is for them is fantastic because it just grows like even among concrete.
Adrian, would you share with us, why does animal leather have to be treated with such intense harmful chemicals? I don't think people have any awareness of this. If you have a leather couch in your home, or I was in a store on Sunday and there was a lot of, Italian leather shoes, Italian leather this, Italian leather that, shirts and shoes. And I was asking, do you have anything that's not made with animal leather? And they definitely looked at me like I was insane because why would you not want this? But I don't think people realize the dangers. Can you help us understand why first animal leather is treated with such intense chemicals, and then what those chemicals are putting off over the lifetime of the animal skin if, let's say, you have a leather couch in your living room?
Right. So from a non-vegan perspective point of view, the leather industry is just recovering a waste from the food industry that otherwise will be discarded. But this point will be only valid when there is no involvement of noxious substances, as I was mentioning, and vast water use. So, first we have to think about it from where it starts, which is the fields, the land where actually the cows or the hide is grown at. There is huge land use. They drink a lot of water. They consume a lot of food. We know that annually, a size of the territory of United Kingdom is deforested in the Amazon just for growing these animals. So it is just not sustainable just from there. And then if you take that further, you are then tanning a leather. Not a leather, but a skin, which it's an animal skin, and then that has to be transported with salts, and then when it arrives to the tanning tanneries, they have to add liquors because they have to give the material the properties that they need to be incorporated into a final product. Besides, otherwise the material will smell like dead animals, right? So actually, the leather smell doesn't come from the animal; it comes from the chemicals. And it's impressive that people say, I love it. Well, we are smelling just noxious chemicals. Not just that, not just environmental aspects, but also health measures for all people working in these production chains. We know that many people don't have the right equipment to work all these toxic chemicals, and sometimes they just get cancer. And here in Mexico there is a very famous place which is called León. León is one of the biggest producers of leather. They call the people that work in the tanneries the green bellies, and the reason why they call them is because they actually the skin of their belly turns green, because when they start to when they are like washing the leather into all these tumbling equipments, and they are in contact with all this water that is spilling on their bodies with all these toxic chemicals, it just adheres to their skin, and then it's absorbed, and you can just imagine the harm that is doing to them. And this is not only here. It happens in India, in Bangladesh. It happens everywhere where the tanning industry is one of the major economic engines. So there is no doubt that it is not controlled, and that it is not affecting only the environment, but also human health.
I read in a book that I have on vegan interiors that 50% of the workers at the tanneries in India have either stomach cancer or lung cancer.
Exactly, and that's the reason why. For instance, in this value chain or production chain of making our products, there is no contact at all from the fields all the way to the mill with toxic chemicals. Many people think that leather is biodegradable because it comes from animals. But then after 10 with all these chemicals, because it is already transformed into another material. Now, our materials, we have materials that account for 43% organic carbon content up to 65. This is a test that we perform in the United States. They only trace that content from animals or plants. It doesn't have anything to do with petroleum-based carbon. We know that our materials are going to biodegrade at as much as 65% without harming the environment or the soil, because there are no toxic chemicals. So the rest is going to degrade, but it will take longer.
And when you make this, how do you clip some of the cactus off, and then what do you do with the product after to make it into these long sheaths of fabric or material?
Well, we develop different materials for automotive, fashion, in footwear, garments, upholstery, and many luxury packaging, etc. So the applications of the material are very wide. We are currently working with many different industries around the world, exporting most of our production. And the good news about our material is that 95% of the material is usable. It means that there is very little waste when you are actually using it to make products versus leather, for example. Like leather, it has a lot of waste because it is not regular. It comes from animals, so sometimes they just or the shape of it doesn't allow you to maximize the efficiency of your patterns. So you discard a lot. So there is a huge environmental footprint, and then when you finally get the material, you waste a lot. So that's the problem with it.
Adrian, you use your Instagram channel to kind of call on larger corporations and governing bodies to make change in the right direction towards promoting sustainability. What is your dream for disruption of the animal leather world?
Well, our hope is that us, along all these startups and companies around the world which are working on developing new sustainable alternatives, to really help achieve the Paris Protocol goals, which is the reduction of environmental impact by 2030. We know that the fashion industry is still behind the goals that have been set by the global fashion agenda. And so we work in very close fashion with them to learn of which are the major challenge of the industry and how our materials can contribute to achieve those goals. It is a necessity. This is all about working with nature instead against it.
Even though your product can't be bought in retail stores, because you sell your product to manufacturers who then make the bags and then shoes and different leather products, for example, for cars, like you said. What would you argue to someone who says, "Oh, but I really love leather"? What would you say in terms of Decerto, in terms of the actual the feel of it, what's different and better about Decerto besides the environmental and human and, of course, animal benefits?
Like the a person's experience with it.
Yeah.
Like what would
Thank you, Dottie.
No, I want to know
much better.
Technology has gotten to a point where it allows us to mimic leather at a degree that you hardly will even notice. Actually, when we first launched our materials in Italy last year in October 2019, one of the speakers at the Innovation Square, she came by and she was very attracted by our stand because she saw a lot of cactuses and plants and she never heard about it. And she went in, touched the materials, all the articles we had, and she asked what it was made of. So we explained the whole process, and then she told us that among all the sustainable alternatives out there at the expo, ours was the most suitable for its use in luxury applications because of the softness of it and the way it really mimics leather. That was the first big compliment we got from an expert in the field. And then after, now we are working towards automotive industry with great progress. And another expert in the automotive industry in Europe told us that please congratulate your team and your engineers because what you have achieved is awesome. It just feels like leather in the hand feel, the body of it, the way it breaks, and it just has a body and an aspect that normally leather will only offer you because of the collagen that has in it.
Since you, as Alexandra mentioned, you serve the designers that make the clothing and the furniture, but people are going to be dying to know, because I'm dying to know where I can go get a Decerto pair of shoes or a bag. Can we get them here in the U.S. yet? And who sells them?
Right. In our Instagram account, decerto.pele with double L, we always publish all the companies that have already launched products to the market. We have been only in the market for about 9 months now, and most of our customers are still in the designing stage or prototyping, but many of medium and small size brands, even some big brands, they have already launched their footwear, garments, accessories. So the best way to check them out is in our Instagram, and then you can just find the one that is closest to you.
Yeah, you guys are basically kind of brand spanking new. I have so much hope and so much respect too for what you all are doing in this space.
Thank you so much.
It's really world changing, and obviously it's life changing for animals and humans alike.
Decerto.pele with Pelle. Is that right? Is that how to find where your products are being your product is being manufactured into actual goods we can buy?
That's correct. And you can also check all the other information in our website, which is www.decerto.com.mx.
Well, thank you so much for being on our podcast. We are supporting you 100%, and we look forward to speaking with you again.
Thank you so much
Thank
for
you,
inviting
Adrian.
me anytime. Thank you.
All right. Bye-bye.
Ciao.
So thank you so much for tuning in today. If we helped you in any way, then click the subscribe button and let's keep hanging out together. We have so much more to share with you.
And if you need more information on actually making the switch for good, please visit us at switchforgood.org for loads of info. And you can subscribe to our mailing list where you will receive all sorts of super cool gifts, discount codes to our very fave dairy-free products, and a lifetime of powerful health tips.
So join us on the journey to switch for good. This is the future.